Homelessness is a complex issue plaguing many cities worldwide, and Seattle is no exception. According to the 2024 point-in-time count conducted by King County Regional Housing Authority, an estimated 68,385 individuals were experiencing homelessness in Seattle and King County on a single night. This represents a significant increase of 23% from the 2022 count. Even after adjusting for population growth, it's important to remember that these point-in-time counts are generally considered underestimates, suggesting the true number of homeless people could be even higher. Breaking down the numbers further, we see a disparity between sheltered and unsheltered homeless individuals. The reports indicate that roughly 40,810 people were living unsheltered, while the remaining 26,575 found accommodation in emergency shelters or transitional housing. This means nearly two-thirds of the homeless population in King County lack access to emergency shelters or transitional housing. Cost of homelessness in Seattle. Seattle has consistently dedicated significant resources to addressing homelessness. In 2020, the city budgeted a substantial amount, likely $1 billion, for homeless services with a focus on shelters. This investment has continued to grow in recent years. Data from 2022 suggests the city spends over $1.4 billion on homelessness, with sheltering costs forming a major portion. Sheltering a single adult can exceed $37,000 per year, and sheltering families can be even more expensive, reaching over $75,000 in 2022. The rising homeless population necessitates continued investment. The Department of Homeless Services' proposed budget for fiscal year 2023 reflected this need, reaching $2 billion. Looking ahead, quantifying the exact cost of homelessness in Seattle for 2024 is difficult. However, estimates from the Budget Office suggest the city may require an additional $1 billion in 2024 for homeless services beyond what was initially budgeted. There's an ongoing debate about the effectiveness of current spending. While some argue for increased funding, others point to the lack of measurable results. A recent audit criticized Seattle for not adequately analyzing the success of its programs. This raises concerns about whether enough people are being transitioned into permanent housing to justify the ongoing costs. Washington has also tripled its funding for Seattle's homelessness programs. These funds are directed towards shelters, supportive housing programs, and law enforcement. Research indicates a strong correlation between homelessness and increased crime rates. The rise in crime associated with homelessness has significant implications for Seattle's broader community. Increased crime rates contribute to a general sense of insecurity among residents, and can deter tourism and business investments. High crime rates. Isolating Seattle's crime data within Washington state paints a clearer picture. Resources like Neighborhood Scout report that over 97% of Washington communities have a lower crime rate than Seattle. This suggests Seattle's crime challenges are specific to the city itself. According to the Seattle Police Department's crime dashboard, overall crime increased by 4% in 2022 compared to 2021, reaching a total of 67,577 reported incidents. This translates to a crime rate of 90 per 1,000 residents, placing Seattle among communities with the highest rates in the nation. Breaking down the data further reveals a rise in both violent and property crimes. Violent crimes reached a 15-year high in 2022 with a rate of 936 per 100,000 residents. Property crimes also saw an increase, with a rate of 7,784 per 100,000 residents. However, crime rates are not just about raw numbers. Neighborhood Scout, a resource for community safety information, provides a different perspective. They report that Seattle has a crime rate of 90 per 1,000 residents, placing it among the highest in the nation. This translates to a 1 in 11 chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime, a statistic considerably higher than the national average. Poverty in Seattle. According to Data USA, an estimated 15.8% of Seattle's population, roughly 112,200 people out of a total of 715,000, lived below the poverty line in 2022. This poverty rate is higher than the national average of 12.5%. It's important to note that poverty rates can vary depending on the source. State-level data from the Washington Office of Financial Management shows a statewide poverty rate of 14.4%. This discrepancy highlights the need to consider different data sources when understanding the scope of poverty. An essential aspect of understanding poverty in Seattle is acknowledging the disparities within the population. Data from the Seattle government website reveals that Black, Indigenous, and Hispanic communities experience poverty at a considerably higher rate compared to white residents. The data indicates that 18.9% of Black residents, 18.6% of Indigenous Americans, and 9.8% of Hispanics live in poverty, compared to just 5.7% of white residents. This highlights the racial and ethnic inequalities embedded within the city's economic landscape. High inflation in Seattle. Seattle, a city known for its booming tech industry and scenic beauty, is grappling with a significant challenge: high inflation. While inflation is a national concern, Seattle has been hit particularly hard, experiencing rates above the national average. One key driver of Seattle's inflation is the housing market. The city's rapid growth, coupled with limited housing availability, has pushed rental and purchase prices to record highs. According to the Seattle Department of City Budget, shelter costs have risen by 8.9% in the last year alone. This increase significantly impacts household budgets, forcing residents to allocate a larger portion of their income towards housing, with less left for other necessities. Beyond housing, everyday goods and services are also becoming more expensive. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the Seattle area's Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, has risen by 7.4% over the past year. This translates to higher grocery bills, transportation costs, and utility expenses. Food prices in particular have seen a significant rise, with meat, poultry, and restaurant meals experiencing steeper increases. The consequences of high inflation are far-reaching. It disproportionately affects low and middle-income residents, who have less financial flexibility to absorb rising costs. This can lead to tough choices, such as skipping meals, delaying medical care, or putting off essential repairs. Additionally, inflation erodes the purchasing power of wages, making it harder for workers to keep pace with the rising cost of living. High cost of living in Seattle. The most prominent factor contributing to Seattle's high cost of living is housing. Housing prices, both for rent and purchase, significantly exceed the national average. According to Rent Cafe, Seattle's housing costs are a staggering 112% more expensive than the U.S. average. This translates to a median one-bedroom apartment rent exceeding $1,500 a month, making it a challenge for young professionals and middle-income families to find affordable housing. For instance, a teacher making the Seattle Public Schools' average salary of $78,000 would struggle to afford a mortgage on a median-priced home, which sits around $952,328. Beyond housing, groceries and other daily necessities are also more expensive in Seattle. PayScale reports that grocery costs are roughly 25% higher than the national average. This means everyday items like milk, bread, and produce can significantly impact a household's budget. Imagine a gallon of milk costing $4.85 in Seattle compared to the national average of $3.04. These seemingly small price differences add up quickly, putting a strain on residents' wallets. The high cost of living in Seattle isn't limited to just basic necessities. Transportation, utilities, and even healthcare comes at a premium. The city's public transportation system, while well developed, it boasts fares slightly higher than the national average. Similarly, utility costs hover around 6% higher than the national benchmark. Even healthcare costs are roughly 30% more expensive in Seattle compared to the rest of the country. For example, a family of 4 might spend upwards of $100 on a weekly grocery bill in Seattle, compared to $80 in a more affordable city. This seemingly small difference adds up over time, forcing residents to make tough choices about where to cut back in their budgets. Consider David, who commutes daily to his workplace in downtown Seattle. Between gas, car maintenance, and parking fees, his transportation expenses eat up a significant portion of his paycheck. Opting for public transport might save some money, But it could also mean longer commute times and limited flexibility. The high cost of living in Seattle isn't all doom and gloom. Higher salaries in certain industries, particularly tech, can help offset the living expenses. However, not everyone works in these high-paying sectors, leaving many residents struggling to make ends meet. The harsh future of Seattle. Seattle, once a beacon of innovation and prosperity, faces a future fraught with challenges. The city's struggle with homelessness, crime, and poverty threatens to erode its social fabric and economic vitality. Homelessness casts a long shadow on Seattle. The lack of affordable housing, coupled with mental health issues and addiction, has created a humanitarian crisis. Tent encampments scar public spaces, fostering a sense of insecurity and hindering public health efforts. As these encampments grow without proper sanitation or security, the risk of disease and violence rises. This not only impacts the homeless population, but also strains city resources and discourages investment. The rise in homelessness intertwines with a potential increase in crime rates, with limited options for shelter and support. Some may resort to petty theft or property damage for survival. Additionally, the desperation and frustration of those struggling financially can lead to a rise in drug-related crime. This creates a vicious cycle, where fear of crime discourages investment in struggling neighborhoods, further entrenching poverty and fueling more crime. Poverty sits at the heart of this complex issue. Seattle boasts a booming tech industry, but the benefits haven't trickled down to everyone. The high cost of living forces low-wage workers into precarious situations. A single unexpected expense can send them spiraling towards eviction or homelessness. This not only deepens the social divide, but also weakens the city's tax base, hindering its ability to fund essential services like education and healthcare.